everybody, thanks for watching the Cardboard Dungeon. My name is Pat, and I am reviewing the Ghost expansion for X-Wing. This is a huge expansion. I'm going to go through some of this stuff pretty quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about cards that I've talked about in previous videos, but let's get right into this. The Ghost expansion has two ships. You get the VCX 100, which is the type of ship that the Ghost is from Star Wars Rebels. This is a heavily Star Wars Rebels expansion. Of course, the Ghost is the main ship that the protagonists in Rebels fly around. You also get the smaller attack shuttle, which in Rebels is named the Phantom, and it's a small ship that can dock into the Ghost, which gives you an idea of how big the Ghost is, and we're going to see that a little better here in a sec. And this expansion has both ships, pilots for both ships, so we're going to take a look at both of these in this video. But first, we have a couple of special rules to cover that apply to the VCX 100. Starting with a brand new firing arc. This is called a special firing arc. It's a rear-facing, normal-shaped firing arc, but it's got a dotted line and it's got a torpedo icon in the middle of it. Now what this means is that you can fire torpedo upgrades out of this rear arc whenever you have them equipped, but there's a special rule about firing your primary weapon out of the rear arc. So it's not like the rear-facing arcs we've seen before on the fire spray. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the title for this card. And next we have the docking and deploying docked ships rules. So the attack shuttle can begin the game docked on the VCX, and after the VCX makes a maneuver during the game, you can choose to deploy it. And you do that simply by choosing a maneuver on the attack shuttle's dial, fitting the template into the rear guides on the VCX, flying the shuttle out there, and then if it's legal, if it doesn't hit something, it can perform an action. And it can attack during the combat phase of that round. Now, there's another situation if the VCX gets destroyed. The attack shuttle does get to deploy, however, it cannot attack during that round, and it comes out with one face-down damage card. So, better to deploy this thing before you lose the big ship. Talking about the big ship, let's take a look at this thing. VCX 100, the largest large-based ship in the game. By far, this thing dwarfs the Decimator. Well, look at the size comparison here. Here it is with the Millennium Falcon and the Gazanti Cruiser, a huge ship. And from what Fantasy Flight says, and I believe them, these things are all to scale. The Gazanti was the first huge ship that actually follows the standard scale of X-Wing because it had to have those TIE fighters docked on it, and it would look silly if they were out of scale. The Ghost is huge. It's a giant ship, which makes sense because it's basically like the Serenity from Firefly, where it's home to a bunch of people, all the main characters of Star Wars Rebels. I think there's like six of them. They all live on this ship. It's basically their flying, motorhome. So yeah, it's giant. It even has its own flight stand. It's not the normal peg that large ships have. It's a three-pronged stand, and I don't like this thing at all. It's only got one peg still, one peg that fits into the bottom of the ship. The other two prongs are just ending in flat tips, and the ship rests on it. So when you pick the ship up, it kind of has a little bit of wobble to it. It feels unstable, although this thing does a pretty good job of keeping it stable while it's sitting there. But the whole thing, I really wish that it had three pegs and fitting into three holes in the bottom of the ship. I don't know why they didn't do that. I'm sure there's probably a reason. Maybe it would break off easier or something on those pegs. I don't know. But anyways, it feels a little bit loose and wobbly. Not a huge fan of it, but it does the job reasonably well. So let's jump right into the maneuver dials for these two ships. Surprisingly similar maneuver dials. I'm going to show you both of them at the same time, and we're going to look at the VCX 100 first. You can see it's got every normal maneuver except for the Speed 5 straight. It has red Speed 1 and Speed 3 turns, and then it has a Speed 5 K turn, which is uncommon. That's a very far distance for a K turn, and that is red, as is usual. And then it's got four green maneuvers, straights at 1 and 2, and then the 2-speed banks. All right, not bad for a large ship. And then looking at the attack shuttle, almost exactly the same dial. The K-turn is at speed 4, and then the speed 1 banks are green instead of the 2s. But everything else is the same. Kind of odd. You'd think that the attack shuttle being smaller would be a little more nimble. Maybe not have red speed 1 turns. Maybe they'd be white at least. Okay, let's look at the stats. Starting with the VCX, we have an attack value of 4, only the second time in standard play ships we've seen this after the TIE Phantom. 4 dice on the attack, very big, powerful. Agility of 0, no surprise here, it's a huge ship, easy to hit. Second ship with a 0 agility after the Decimator in standard format, 100-point squadrons outside of Epic. And then 10 hull and 6 shields, so this thing can take a lot of damage before you need to remove it from the table. Over on the action bar, we have Focus, Target Lock, and Evade. So Evade is big on this, a way to mitigate damage with that 0 agility. You're not rolling any defense dice. You need whatever you can do, and this thing does have some tricks for soaking up even more than the 16 damage that its stats would indicate it takes to be destroyed. Now down on the upgrade bar, we can see that this ship is almost fully loaded. Now one thing to note is that none of the pilots for the VCX can take an elite upgrade. I have to imagine that this was done because there's probably some broken combos with that 4 attack value. You probably don't really want to have access to those elites that let you roll additional dice because that would probably just get a little bit too powerful. That's my guess at least. But anyways, these ships can all take system, a turret, 2 torpedoes. 2 torpedoes, of course, means that you can get extra munitions in one of those slots and have double fires on whatever your torpedo of choice is for cheaper point value. And then 2 crew, also very good for crew combos, and we're getting a lot of crew in this expansion as we're going to see here real soon. So very nice assortment of upgrades, especially having access to the system upgrade is always good to see. Okay, now let's look at the attack shuttle. Attack value of 3, agility of 2, 2 hull and 2 shields. Pretty similar to an X-Wing along the lines of the stats, the straight stats for this. Now on the action bar, we have Focus, Barrel Roll, and Evade. So very interesting. No native boost, so you can't use auto thrusters on this thing. It's not quite that maneuverable, but overall, not a bad little ship. Now, all of the attack shuttles can also take a turret and 1 crew, which is interesting, because we don't see a whole lot of small ships in the game that can carry crew. All right, now let's talk about the pilots, starting with the pilots for the VCX. Top pilot is Hera Syndulla. She's the captain of the Ghost, of course. Pilot skill is 7, cost of 40 points, so we see that the pilots on this ship are not going to be cheap. This is going to be about half of your build cost to really build out one of these ships, give or take. Hera's ability says, when you reveal a green or red maneuver, you may rotate your dial to another maneuver of the same difficulty. So here I think is where we see why you've got a lot of red and a lot of green on the dial. I think there's 5 red maneuvers and 4 green maneuvers. So she's got some options. When she reveals a maneuver of either red or green, she can change the dial to another maneuver of that same color, which is very cool. Any kind of ability that lets you switch up your maneuvers on the fly to react to the changing battlefield conditions, always very powerful. All right, next up we have Kanan Jarrus. Pilot skill of 5, 38 points. His ability says, when an enemy ship at ranges 1 or 2 is attacking, you may spend a focus token. If you do, the attacker rolls 1 fewer attack die. So here's another way, a pilot with an ability to reduce the damage that this ship will take by reducing the number of dice that an attacker rolls. Also worth noting that Kanan's ability says when an enemy ship is attacking, not attacking your ship. So you can use his ability whenever an enemy ship is attacking, even if they're attacking one of your squad mates. And that's pretty cool. And if you've got some tricks that you can do to give this guy multiple focus tokens, and there are ways to do that in the game, he can do it every time he's attacked as long as he's got a focus token to spend. So not a once per round thing. It's a very interesting ability, defensive ability, in keeping with Kanan, the Jedi's personality. Very cool. All right, next up is Chopper. Chopper is the droid companion among the Rebels crew. Pilot skill of 4, 37 points. At the start of the combat phase, each enemy ship you are touching receives 1 stress token. Very cool and thematic. I like that. As fans of the show know, Chopper likes to ram into things. And we're going to see there's some crew, and there's combos. There's all kinds of stuff in the game at this point that benefit you being right up there in the mix of things, even touching enemy ships. So pretty neat. All right, and we've got one non-unique pilot for the VCX, Lothal Rebel. Pilot skill of 3 and 35 points. No ability on this guy, but you can take all of those sweet upgrades so you can do some things with this, or just fly it around as a 35-point huge ship with 16 hits and an attack value of 4. And not bad for 35 points, really. All right, moving on over to the attack shuttle. Top pilot for this ship is also Hera Syndulla. I think first time in the game we've seen the same pilot on 2 different ships. I think we're going to see it again in the Imperial Veterans here. But I know Boba Fett switched sides, but he's still flying the fire spray. So Hera, a pilot on 2 different ships out of the same expansion. Same pilot skill of 7, 22 points on the attack shuttle. When flying the attack shuttle, Hera can take an elite upgrade. So very cool. And she has the exact same ability. So again, like I said, the attack shuttle having that array of red maneuver options as well as the greens, benefiting Hera's ability. But of course, you can't have her flying both the VCX and the attack shuttle because she's a unique pilot. You can't have more than one in your squad. So you got to choose. Is Hera flying the Ghost or is she flying the Phantom? Okay, next, Sabine Wren. Pilot skill of 5, 21 points, can also take an elite. And her ability reads, immediately before you reveal your maneuver, you can perform a free boost or barrel roll action. Very cool. Like I said, the attack shuttle doesn't have the boost action native, so being able to get that through an ability is cool. Or barrel rolling before your maneuver without using something like advanced sensors, just off of your pilot's ability. Very cool. Boost and barrel roll, of course. Great repositioning tools. Super powerful in X-Wing. Ezra Bridger, pilot skill of 4 and 20-point costs, can also take an elite. So they're really throwing these elite upgrades around on the shuttle pilots since none of the VCX pilots get it. When defending, if you are stressed, you may change up to 2 of your focus results to evade results. That's a really cool ability. Powerful defensive ability, sort of similar to what we saw on Luke Skywalker out of the X-Wing original core set. Luke could, of course, change a focus result to an evade result when rolling defense dice. Ezra needs to be stressed, but he can change up to 2 focus into evade results. Pretty cool. Nice ability. All right, finally we have Zeb Aurelios, pilot skill of 3, 18 points. Also a defensive ability on this guy. When defending, you may cancel critical results before hit results. Kind of need to be able to do that, especially on a ship with only 2 shields. So once those shields are gone, a critical hit could easily finish you off. There's a huge pile of upgrade cards with this expansion, and I am not going to dwell too much on the stuff that we've seen before because there's several in here that we have seen in previous expansions. Starting with Predator. An elite upgrade we've seen a couple places before, most recently with the Kirax Fighter expansion in Wave 7. This is a great card. When attacking, you may reroll 1 attack die. If the defender's pilot skill is 2 or lower, you can instead reroll 2. So almost like having a free target lock when attacking without having to spend the action for the target lock. Rerolls, always good. Next up, we've got a brand new system upgrade. Reinforced Deflectors costs 3 points and is large ship only. After you suffer 3 or more damage from an attack, recover 1 shield up to your shield value. So pretty cool. Like I said, there are ways to keep the damage at bay for this ship, or force your opponent to do more than the 16 points of damage necessary to normally take the VCX off the table. This is going to be useful on the Decimator as well, because of course ships with no agility are likely to eat 3 or more damage from big attacks. So nice to have a way to mitigate a little bit of that. Okay, we got a brand new turret. Dorsal Turret, 2 copies in this expansion, costing 3 points. Rolls 2 attack dice at ranges 1 or 2, and if the target of the attack is at range 1, you roll 1 additional attack die, so that's pretty cool. Not a terrible turret, not the best turret in the game, but nice to have additional turret options for those ships that can take them. And of course, both ships in this expansion can do it, so we have 2 copies. Next, we've got another copy of Advanced Proton Torpedoes. This has been in the game for a while. It's in 3 or 4 previous expansions. Most powerful torpedo in the game. All right, now we're going to get into the crew. Interesting thing about the crew cards in this expansion, you get crew versions of all of the Rebels' main characters. So Hera Syndulla, crew version. These are all Rebel only, so I'm not going to say Rebel only on everyone because it just goes without saying. 1 point cost. You can reveal and execute red maneuvers even while you are stressed. A Hera on a B-wing with the title that lets it carry a crew, especially the Kean Farlander who wants stress. Just fantastic. All right, next up we've got Zeb Aurelios. 1 point. Enemy ships inside your firing arc that you are touching are not considered to be touching you when either you or they activate during the combat phase. So in a nutshell, what this means is you touch an enemy ship, you can shoot at it. If you're in its firing arc, it can shoot at you. Pretty cool. Zeb wants to be on the Ghost when Chopper's flying. And if at all possible, you want to ram into ships so that you are outside of their firing arc, but you can shoot at them with 5 dice. Pretty nice combo there. Pretty insane. Kanan Jarrus, 3 points. Once per round, after a friendly ship at range 1 or 2 executes a white maneuver, you may remove 1 stress token from that ship. So this is neat. If you've got a friendly ship that has stress, they can pull a white maneuver, giving them a much wider range of options outside of the usual, you got to do a green maneuver because you want to get rid of that stress. And then Kanan can take it off. Not take it and put it on his ship, just remove it. So very cool. Okay, Ezra Bridger, 3 points. When attacking, if you are stressed, you may change one of your focus results to a critical result. So kind of similar to his pilot ability, but this is the offensive version. If the ship he's on has stress, you get to turn a focus to a critical. Very cool. All right, now this is the big one. Sabine Wren, 2 points, sorry. Your upgrade bar gains the bomb upgrade icon. Once per round, before a friendly bomb token is removed, choose one enemy ship at range 1 of that token. That ship suffers 1 damage. Boom! Right here, crew member that's directly benefiting bombs. We've seen so much stuff to try to bring ordnance back into the game lately. It seems like every new wave that comes out gives us something new. We had extra munitions. We've had guidance chips in this wave. Now we have Sabine directly making bombs more viable and more powerful. And this is just insane. So any rebel ship that can carry a crew can now carry a bomb. And in addition to that, before that bomb token is removed, it's going to do 1 additional damage to 1 ship. And most bombs only damage ships at range 1, so, I mean, if you catch an unshielded Arc Dodger like a TIE Interceptor with a bomb when Sabine's around, it's gone, basically. That's it. That's all she wrote. Incredibly awesome crew card for the Rebels, and bombs are just getting better and better. And we've seen some great bombs recently. There's more copies of those bombs in this expansion, so Fantasy Flight obviously making a big push to get ordnance back on the table, and with Sabine, specifically bombs. All right, lastly for the Rebels crew, Chopper. 0 points, so a free crew. You may perform actions even while you are stressed. After you perform an action while you are stressed, suffer 1 damage. All right, so we can see why he's free now. Performing actions when you have stressed is cool, but you're going to take damage if you choose to do it. So risk and reward. But sometimes you might have a situation where you have a ship with a crew slot, you don't really want to put anything on there, just put them on there, why not, right? And then something might come up during the game where you really needed action and it doesn't matter that you take that damage, you have that option available. Nothing bad to say about that. Zero cost crew. All right, now we're going to get into additional copies of the bombs that we saw in Wave 7. Good to have these, especially because extra munitions is now a thing. So Wave 7 came out with extra munitions, but not additional copies of these bombs, which was kind of lame. I think I commented on that back when I was doing the K-Wing and TIE Punisher expansions. So Counter Net, 4 points, drops this big, crazy net that does all kinds of nasty things if you fly through it. So don't fly through these things. Good to have that. Cluster Mines drops that sweet 3-part cluster mine token set, which can detonate every time an enemy ship flies over any one of them. Love these things. Great bombs to have. Good to have extra copies. I think we're getting another copy of this in the Imperial Veterans pretty soon too. All right, now we got even a new bomb, new to this expansion. Thermal Detonators costs 3 points. When you reveal your maneuver dial, you may discard this card to drop a thermal detonator token, and the token detonates at the end of the activation phase. And what that does, sorry, I had to find the reference sheet for this because it doesn't tell you what it does on the actual card. When thermal detonators detonate, each ship at range 1 of the token suffers 1 damage and receives 1 stress token. Then discard this token. So, pretty cool. Okay, lastly, we've got the titles for both of these ships. Starting with the Ghost, VCX 100 only, of course. No cost. Equip the Phantom title card to a friendly attack shuttle and dock it to this ship. After you execute a maneuver, you may deploy it from your rear guides. Okay, so this just, you have to have the Ghost title, but it's free. And this gives you the ability to dock with the Phantom. And the Phantom title. Doesn't say on here that it has to be an attack shuttle, but the only way to get this title is to have the Ghost title on the VCX. So they go hand in hand, they're a set. There's no cost on this thing. While you are docked, the Ghost can perform primary weapon attacks from its special firing arc, and at the end of the combat phase, it may perform an additional attack with an equipped turret. If it performs this attack, it cannot attack again this round. All right. So this and Gunner cancel each other out. So if you want the Phantom on your Ghost, don't have Gunner on there as well, because Gunner also says if you use them, you can't attack again this round. So you won't be able to get that extra attack on a miss with Gunner and then get an extra attack with a turret at the end of the round. So I kind of like how they sort of cancel each other out, prevent it from becoming too powerful, but still extremely powerful. Anytime we've seen in the game a ship capable of making more than 1 attack in the same round, like Cornhorn on his E-Wing, of course, it's very powerful and something to watch out for, something to try to do as often as possible. So, of course, the drawback to this is you need to spend points on the attack shuttle, which is 18 points minimum, I think, was the cheapest we saw, in order to have the Phantom title on it and have it docked. And those points are all off the board for as long as you want to use this ability. So it essentially turns your Ghost from a 35 to 40 point base cost to nearly 60 points before you even put upgrades on it. So if you want to go this route and you want to have that extra turret attack at the end of combat, you're going to have a very expensive ship that's eating up more than half of your build cost in a 100-point game. But of course, depending on how you outfit it, you can turn the Ghost into an incredibly powerful beast on the table. So very interesting. I like this a lot. I like that. It's just a great expansion. So much new crew, so many new options for the Rebels as a whole. It's just good stuff. These crew are great. It remains to be seen how competitive this ship is going to be because it is so costly. It almost forces you back into that archetype of one loaded large ship and then a single ace or arc dodger or something flying alongside it. But we've kind of moved away from that in the metagame recently. That was dominating a couple years ago, the one big ship, one small ship, when we saw Detonators and Phantoms and Millennium Falcons and E-Wings. Then we moved away from that recently because auto thrusters became a thing, and there was a lot of hate for those big ships with turrets. But this is a different beast. It doesn't have a turret. It has a high attack value. It has some extra tricks that it can pull. So it'll be interesting to see if builds with the Ghost and one other ship become a thing and sort of bring that archetype back, but in a different way. So all right, you guys, that's it. That's Wave 8. We've covered everything from Wave 8. Fantastic wave. Super exciting. Loads of new stuff coming into X-Wing. It's going to be an exciting time for a while. I think all three factions got some really good stuff out of this. Scum and Villainy especially. We're going to see the Jump Masters making waves. But yeah, Wave 8, good stuff. Ghost expansion, fantastic. If you're a fan of the Rebels show, even better. They really nailed it with the themes, with the characters, everything in this expansion. Okay, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.